Welcome to This Podcast is for Nerds, an inaugural podcast to bring together all nerds of all topics from everywhere, from anime, music, TV shows, which count as anime, and just random things that trail off like this, which counts as nerdiness.
That was beautifully said, Zach.
Thank you. I am Zach Van Buren, joined me with my beautifully nerdy co-host / partner / fellow nerd, Calvin Tuttle.
Thank you. I appreciate the beautiful part. I don't think I deserve that, but all right. So this podcast is called "This Podcast is for Nerds." Now, Zach, what do you think a nerd is?
A nerd is someone you can always rely on for reliable discussion. Never-ending reliable discussion. That is what a nerd stands for. That is the acronym I've adopted for nerds. It's not necessarily, it's funny because being a nerd has become a cool thing over the last 15 years. For some reason, not sure, I'm not against it, but things I used to be picked on for in elementary school and middle school are now the hip things that people want to get into.
Agreed. I had a similar experience growing up.
So a nerd for me is someone who loves something so much that they can literally talk about it for days. They know the facts, they know the dates, they know the times, they know the people, and they are more than willing to jump into it with you at the drop of a hat.
Exactly.
What is a nerd to you?
So I think it's similar vein. I think a nerd is somebody that has a profound passion for a certain topic. Like you said, I think for us growing up, it might have been music, pop culture in general, and I think stereotypically maybe comic books, superheroes, that type of stuff. But yeah, this podcast is basically going to be a nerdy podcast each week. We're each going to bring a topic of discussion that can kind of derail, I'm sure, knowing how we talk. Yeah, so we're on social media. You can find us at This Pod is for Nerds on Instagram. We post on stories and photos for when an episode's being recorded and when one gets uploaded. We're also there on SoundCloud, and we're at This Pod is the number 4 Nerds on Twitter. Same stuff. We're gonna post when an episode's coming out, and if we get a following, maybe we'll ask for questions there. You can find us at thispodisfornerds.com, where we'll be hosting the episodes. You can listen to them there or on SoundCloud, as well as YouTube. We'll have full episodes there.
So yeah, we really are excited to do this. This is something that I've been wanting to do for quite some time, and I was nervous about it because, I've brought it up before, and I bring a lot of energy to things all the time. As
you do.
People who know me know.
Yeah, you have BDE. I'll leave it at that.
Yep, we'll leave it at that. That's the popular card in Cards Against Humanity as well.
It is. You're right. And
which
coat hanger abortion. Might have to censor that one.
A little bit. Just put the actual censor bar noise in. Yeah. And be like, what did he mean? What did he say? And so when I presented this to Calvin, he reacted with a light had come over him, and I was very excited about that. So here we are. Our first topic in our nerdy discussion comes from Mr. Should we not use our last names?
We already did at the top, so I can just cut out last names and we can just do first if you want.
I'm not sure, actually. I don't think it matters.
I don't plan on talking about anything that I would feel uncomfortable having work know about.
Okay, me either.
It's up to you.
I don't mind either, honestly.
Okay. All right. You can use my last name if you want.
Instagram, so.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
Wild Calvin T.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we'll do letters. So
Wild Calvin
Zach
T.
VB.
Ooh.
All right. Start from the top.
Yep. So today's first nerdy conversation starter comes from Wild Calvin T. Tell me what you brought for us today to discuss.
All right. Well, so I'm a big fan of video games, and there's some hot news that just got released yesterday that's surrounding the disastrous virus, coronavirus. It is the E3, which is the Entertainment Electronics Expo. I think that's what it stands for. Yeah. They just announced that they are going to be canceling due to concerns around COVID-19. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that. I think it's E3 is a big monumental event every year for video gaming. And the fact that they're canceling, I think this is the first time they've ever canceled the event before. So I think it's a worthy discussion to have because it has big impacts on small developers of video games, not so much the big guys, but I just thought that'd be a worthy conversation. So I'm just going to go over some stuff real quickly. This is from Ars Technica. They broke the story on Monday night. Multiple sources familiar with the Entertainment Software Association, ESA, plans to confirm to Ars Technica that the organization which is responsible for the Electronic Entertainment Expo will soon cancel the 3-day event. Like in prior years, E3 2020 was scheduled to play out in early June as a 3-day event at the Los Angeles Convention Center. Shortly after we received the tip, indie game publisher Devolver Digital posted a brief ominous message on Twitter, which said, "Cancel your E3 flights and hotels, y'all." So Tuesday morning, E3 made a tweet announcement saying, after careful consultation with member companies regarding the health and safety of everyone in our industry, our fans, our employees, our exhibitors, and our longtime E3 partners, we have made the difficult decision to cancel E3 2020, scheduled for June 9th through the 11th in Los Angeles. So do you have any experience or do you have a history with E3 at all? Did you follow it when it came out every year?
Yes. Like, that's what I looked forward to.
Okay.
And it's one of those things that outside of, like, cars and being able to drive on racetracks and test out, being one of those guys on YouTube is like, hey, I got invited to come drive this car and get my review. E3 was the thing I wanted to go through in high school. Like, that was the jam. And being able to see, especially with YouTube streamers who got like access to play games that I didn't have systems for, I looked forward to that. Yeah. And the fact that it's not happening is one of those things that, I mean, amidst all the things that are happening with COVID-19, it's one of those things where it's like, man, this is further reaching than I anticipated it being.
Yeah.
And we talked about it a little bit off camera. We're entirely off camera. Is how this is the first time I can remember where multiple countries and entities are all coming together to say, you know, we need to take care of the people and we need to shut stuff down to make sure everyone is like not exposed to this or minimizes the exposure to this.
Yeah,
that was
I agree.
Different. What is one of the things that you were most excited about? Have you been to E3?
No, so I think that kind of gets into maybe our original love of E3 was like when it first came out, it was just a trade expo. Like you couldn't go.
Right.
Like it was only for press, so you'd watch it so you could see all the hot games that are coming out. And I still, every year, I set aside time with my wife and we pick which showcases we're going to watch. Usually it's Bethesda. So yeah, I've never been, but it was certainly something I've always wanted to go to. I think now it's kind of like it's lost maybe its cool, because it's kind of like Comic-Con almost. Like it's not even about what it originally was for. It's not really about press. So yeah, I this year I was really hoping to see like PS5 prices, and again, as far as this year goes, PlayStation wasn't even going to be there. They're doing their own thing now, and I think that's a thing we're seeing more with the big companies. Like Nintendo does their Nintendo Directs. They're not at E3 doing something. Xbox was the only one that was confirmed to be there. So I was hoping maybe we could see the Xbox Series X pricing. I think that would be really cool. I'm pretty excited for it, but I'm probably not going to get it when it comes out this year. And honestly, with COVID-19, a lot of these consoles might be delayed. So, yeah, I didn't have any major games that I was like super pumped on. Maybe the new Halo. I'm sure they would have had some gameplay for that, and I'm sure they will. But yeah, my bigger concern was for the indie devs that get to show off their game and might not have gotten any attention otherwise. So there's a game right now that I've been following pretty closely. It's still in early access, but I could see it being one of those games like it's shown at E3 was Session. It's basically the follow up. It's a totally different company, but it's the same vein as the Skate video game series. I don't know if you ever played those.
I did a little bit. I think by the time the Skate series came out, I was so trained by Tony Hawk that it was really hard for me to play Skate.
Yeah, it's a hard transition because Tony Hawk, I think we all started with that, or Skate or Die, whatever you started with, but similar ideas is like it's an arcadey game and Skate's more down to earth. You're not doing 900s in Skate unless you're on the Mega Ramp or whatever.
The McTwist 900. If you know what that came from, if you know which Tony Hawk game that came from, then you should send me a message and I'll send you a thumbs up picture of congratulations. You know which one that came to.
So yeah, I just thought that was a worthy discussion. Is there anything you were looking forward to as far as announcements?
You know, I'm always really excited about when E3 comes out, regardless, just because there's a lot of games that fall through the loops. Just like they either have a big, like Dragon Age was supposed to come out a couple years ago,
right,
and it was looked beautiful, had all this hype, and then like it kind of just got quiet and just got pushed away.
Yeah.
So I'm always curious to see not just what comes out and what's ready to party, but what comes through and is like, this is going to be really good and it's actually going to have a follow-through date. What I am curious about as well is, you mentioned indie games and their ability to shine at E3. Which path some of these companies are going to take, which ones some of the bigger guys are going to help promote themselves because it's good for their platform, and which ones are going to be like, look, we know we have a great product, we have an outlet because the internet is half online anyway.
Right, exactly. I think most people are watching E3 online anyways, so how hard is it for a big company to rent a theater and just stream and not have to have all these people come in person to announce these games? Yeah, that's an excellent point.
So yeah, I'm really curious about, you know, in all sizes of what COVID is doing to all industries. We're resilient. We're gonna bounce. We're gonna bounce back.
Sure, yeah.
Always
I think people are freaking out about the stock market, but it's gonna come back just like it did in 2008.
Yeah. So, not minimizing the effect or the real scenarios that COVID presents, I'm stoked for E3. One of my favorite streamers, the Rad Brad. I've been watching the Rad Brad since Saints Row 4.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, Saints Row 4 is a great game if you've not played it.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite streamers, and he basically said, he goes, you know, I really enjoy being able to like do this for people who can never afford to buy these games.
Yeah.
Or just to try them out before you buy them because you may not actually want to buy them.
Sure, yeah. Well, yeah, getting back to Tony Hawk, I mean, I think a lot of people bought Tony Hawk 5 with the assumption that it was going to go be back to form, and then I think a lot of Let's Plays came out and people saw how broken the game was.
I think, what was the one with Tony Hawk? Because it wasn't 5. I think it was Project 8 that got me. Yeah. That's the one that I played, and I was like, you know when The Simpsons fired all their writing staff, and then it was like, oh, we're going to keep going on, but we need to fight against Family Guy, so we're going to get more ridiculous and not really have any kind of anything Simpsons-y.
Yeah.
They upped the graphics and like downed everything else.
Yeah, well... See, we're already devolving. We're way off topic. But man, did you play Tony Hawk Ride?
I think that was after Project 8, wasn't it?
It was. I think it was just after Project 8. It was a peripheral that you had to buy. It was a little skateboard that had no wheels and it used sensors. I owned it at one point, and man, that game is trash.
I didn't buy that because I'm a bigger guy, and any kind of board I have to stand on to play a game, I'm gonna break immediately.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I think that, and like even the Dance Dance Revolution pads, I was like, the only thing I played on that was actually supportive of my weight was Guitar Hero.
Oh, yeah.
Because being a drummer Guitar Hero didn't matter.
Right, exactly.
The one thing I sucked at Guitar Hero is that I actually play instruments. So trying to play Guitar Hero and do exactly what it tells you versus like being in a jam band and playing whatever you want,
right, exactly.
I always lost.
Oh, yeah. 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 And, you know, to get back to the streamers, because I think that's an important part of this conversation, is that for a lot of online personalities, this event is actually a big big win for them. They get a lot of views when they cover this content, so they're going to announce stuff and people will do reaction videos, or they'll have discussions with their fans, and that has a big uptick for the video game streamers during this time of year. So I think they're another one to consider besides the indie game devs, as they're going to be struggling a little bit too. So
yeah, I agree. I wonder too. I like to solve problems, so I wonder, because this isn't my industry, what they're gonna do in light of the cancellation. Because you'll have people who will be like, okay, this sucks, but here's what we can do.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to see what ideas come out of that to make the best of a really bad situation.
Yeah, so I think, and that's a good jumping off point. I think we need to go, like, what's the future? Like, is E3 dead after this? What are they going to do this year? So, PlayStation and Nintendo, they're all doing their own thing anyways, so they're just going to keep doing that, as this isn't really going to affect them. Companies like Microsoft, they might be a little bit affected. I mean, I know they just rent out the Microsoft Theater, so I think they just have to pay for maybe streaming. I'm not sure exactly how that works. I'm not in industry. But I think it would be super smart for one of these companies, and since Xbox is kind of the underdog this generation, I think it'd be really smart to include an indie showcase, maybe bring some of the hot indie games that are going to be coming out this year and next year, and giving them a chance to show off their games. So
that would be great, especially because I don't know about the PlayStation Network, but I do know that at the Xbox game store is where a lot of indie games it seems like it tends to thrive.
Yeah.
And I'm an Xbox player. I've had the 360 and I have the one. It seems like that's where you get a lot of indie games get a chance to be on a major platform, is through the Microsoft store.
Yeah.
So that'd be really beneficial for them to be like, hey, you already partnered with us, we can help you guys push through.
Yeah, and I think, if they bring in some indie devs and they see how well the reaction is to their game, maybe they can set up, backdoor deals with their Game Pass service. If you guys don't know, Game Pass is a service. I think it's, I pay $15 a month. You get access to a big catalog of video games on the PlayStation, or on the Xbox and the PC. So to me, it seems like that would be a good opportunity for them to add more games to the Game Pass lineup.
And what it does for the industry, I think, as well, is that it lets people know, even though you're an indie game developer or game dev company, you're still important to us.
Right.
You still have a way to get out there, and we're not going to just let you fall because you're not a giant.
Right, exactly.
And that's where, because we're at the point of we're at Halo 5.
Yep.
We're at Destiny.
Halo Infinite.
I'm sorry. Correction. Well, the point is we have over 5 Halo themed games.
Oh yeah.
And so at that generation of people, we have a whole new generation of game developers coming in who get to start with their bare platform will be the engine off of the Xbox One or the Xbox, what's the next one called?
It is Xbox Series X.
Okay, so yeah, that's their base platform.
The nice thing is that all games that are made on the Xbox One and Xbox One X and Xbox One S, I think, they are all compatible with this new one.
Oh.
So I don't know if there's some dev work that has to happen behind the scenes to make that work, but they have announced that all games will be transferable to this new one. So.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think that's great. and that, to me, that's what's setting Xbox apart right now. I totally understand people's love of PlayStation. I think they certainly have a better single-player lineup than the Xbox, but I think Xbox is making a lot of good moves as far as the Game Pass program and backwards compatibility, which I think are huge.
I think it's funny too that when Xbox came out originally, they were straight up the underdogs. No one thought anything of the Xbox, and then all of a sudden you get the ability to do not just multiplayer, but online multiplayer, like Halo and Call of Duty. Just grab the broom and just swept.
Yeah.
And those are my fondest memories, is hanging out with my friends, going up against, oh man, the 8x8 fights, swords and shotties. That was in Halo.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh yeah, Shotty Snipes was my go-to. I was a big fan of that.
I think Juggernaut was Juggernaut plus King of the Hill
What was Juggernaut? That was
if you get enough kills, you become basically this dude with a crazy overshield and only the sword.
Oh, and then everyone hunts you, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
That was a really good one.
And it sucked too, because you think to yourself, I'm the Juggernaut, I've got these kills, I'm going after everybody, but then like someone gets you just in that right spot and you're done.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, and then they become the Juggernaut, and it's like, I remember one time I didn't want to be the Juggernaut because I was like trying to like, I forgot what my strategy was, but I was like, I don't want to be the Juggernaut because I really like the weapon I have. I think it's when they had hammers and swords.
Yeah.
And I got somebody and says, you're the Juggernaut. I was like, I don't know how to play with this guy. I don't want to use this guy.
Yeah.
This is nonsense.
Yeah, I hated the hammer in Halo.
It was me and the sticky bombs, dude. Like, if you give me those sticky bombs, it's over.
Oh, I was OP with those, man. We gotta play sometime.
I'm down. I am down to play Halo against anybody who wants to bring it.
All right, let's give out your gamer tag, and then people.
Oh man, my gamer tag. Ooh, what is my gamer tag right now? Black Metal Zach. It's my gamer tag, actually. Okay. Same one since day one, actually.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've changed mine around quite a bit. I think it was originally Al Roker fanboy. I don't know where I came up with that. I was yeah.
I'm glad, because you're the only one. I can't think of anybody else who's an Al Roker fanboy.
I'm not at all, but it was a joke.
I could see young Calvin in his formative years watching Good Morning America.
I think that's right.
Yeah. Just going, you know what? This guy needs fans.
Is it the Today Show?
Maybe.
Here's a good one. That might be good.
That goes to show how little I know about Al Roker.
Yeah, no, same. Yeah, I knew he was a weatherman, and yeah, now it's the Calzone.
The Calzone and the traveling Calzone. I think my favorite version of the Calzone was the traveling one where you were in Spain. And you were like, I forgot what you changed.
Calzone Viajando.
There we go.
Yeah, so pretty much any country I go to, I change the traveling Calzone to whatever language, based on the country I'm in. So
I did see the one from Thailand, though. I don't know if you did that one.
Let me pull up Google Translate right now. I don't know. We learned a little bit when we were in Thailand, but not enough to do that. That's a new thing that I'm doing right now. So
I like that. I like that strategy a lot. Because I remember one day I was trying to tag you in something, and I was like, his name is gone. That's weird.
Yeah.
I know he exists, and I like found your like message. I was like, oh, El Corazon. I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's all right.
Yeah.
And then the next time I went looking for that name, it wasn't there because you came home.
Exactly. Yeah.
My nerdy topic for us actually plays off of what we talked about a little bit. It's also video game related.
Excellent.
But it's music in video games related.
I love it.
Yeah, I love music. I really do.
Maybe we should go into our music taste.
Oh, okay. So my musical taste, I didn't have musical taste at all until 6th grade. And I just never felt like I really understood what music I should be listening to based on my environment. Didn't really vibe with any of it. And then in 6th grade, lo and behold, near the bungalows outside of class, the skater kids showed me a band called Blink 182.
We all love them.
Blink 182 was the first band I listened to. It was Enema of the State. And that created a spiral, just like my weight, of getting darker and heavier.
So what do you listen to now, Zach?
Ooh, I listen to a lot of hardcore thrash and old punk.
Okay, are we talking post-hardcore or real hardcore?
You know what? I'm down with both.
Okay.
I'm down with college hardcore. I've heard so many different names of it. Like
college hardcore. I'm not familiar. Who would qualify it?
That college hardcore. Basically, any band that says they're post-hardcore. It's
now.
Like, yeah.
Is it like a time period thing?
It's more so like kids who were into like hardcore in the 90s and then went to college and decided to like keep their tattoos but started wearing polo shirts because they had to go to work.
Yeah, they just got tattoo sleeves that are just covered up by a polo.
Pretty much. So like I have a Madball tattoo on my right arm. Madball is one of my favorite hardcore bands. And then you have Bane and Have Heart. So like old 80s and 90s hardcore.
And they're still doing stuff now, right?
Yeah. Madball's alive and well.
Yeah.
Shout out to Madball. Thank you for keeping it up. New York hardcore. Heavier bands. I mean, Still a big fan of Pantera. Still, thrash, metal, punk, hardcore. And it's funny because I played orchestra in high school, so I have a lot of classical music. Like my whole Spotify history, I'll never be the top 1% of anything, because it'll go from like Pantera, Sepultura, Trapped Under Ice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, to like Mozart.
I'm glad, because I've been seeing people post about how they're the top 1% on Spotify.
Yeah,
and I'm not that for anybody.
I was looking. I was like, oh, maybe I'll be top 1. I was like, no, I won't.
I'm looking at my hottest bands that I listen to all the time, and it's still not even close because I just bounce around so much.
The playlist I have, one of them I was laughing at because it goes from Pat Benatar to Burner to Stevie Nicks to Tupac.
Oh, Tupac. Okay.
Because one thing I've found a love for is music that samples older stuff. And so you get a lot of that in like the G-Funk era and early Dr. Dre and Snoop, where they like sampled a lot of like Parliament Funkadelic and like a lot of 70s and 80s music. So
yeah, shout out to Parliament Funkadelic.
Oh man, George Clinton.
Yeah, man, love it. There's actually, so without giving out our location, I don't want to dox myself, but we live close to a park that is called, I think, George Clinton Park, which is named after him. So,
is it really?
Yeah, that's the rumor. I don't know if that's actually true. But
no, we're claiming it. That's exactly what happened. It's real.
Yeah, we're in the area for him, so it makes sense. But yeah.
To be fair, you can get a lot of like George Clinton parks. People will be like Googling, and the two people who are listening to this podcast right now,
maybe like our friends.
Yeah, they'll be like, we know where you live. Why are you talking about this?
We might get fans one day.
We will have fans one day.
Maybe.
You know what? With your beautiful blue eyes and my dulcet tones
that no one can see.
Well, he has gorgeous blue eyes, so deal with it. What are some of your musical tastes?
So I bounce around a lot. I think everyone kind of went through like what you're saying is like you don't really have a music taste until you're kind of in your preteens kind of era. So like when I was growing up, my mom would play a lot of the Beatles, which I still love. Beatles are fantastic. Obviously, they're one of the best of all time. And then Green Day, which I've been told I look like the Green Day guy a lot. I don't know.
Never once thought that, but okay.
Really? All right. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Because everybody says that to me.
When I first met you, I did think you were a giant scene kid, though.
Well, I was.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that. So the first band that I discovered, or the first band where I felt like, oh, this is going to be my identity was Tool. I remember listening. Yeah. So I remember my dad pulled out a CD. This was like the first time he was kind of like introducing me to music. He was like, you need to listen to this album. And he's got these really nice Bose speakers. And he plays Sober by Tool. And when that first guitar riff comes in with the distortion, I was just like, oh yeah, this is what I'm into. Like I listened to a lot of classic rock before that, Deep Purple and AC/DC and stuff like that. But I felt like, oh, this is the music I want to listen to. And it grew from there. I dated a girl in high school that was super into scene music, so I got really into the scene music.
Did you listen to Head Automatica?
Yeah, well, I was listening
Beating Hearts Baby.
Oh no,
Baby, is this love for real? I don't even know. That's the only thing I remember about that song. Beating Hearts, baby, baby, is this love for real? Tell me up your hottest way. Back when you could go try to go falsetto and then crack your voice you're 13.
Yeah. There was a few that tried to do that. Craig Mabbitt, I think that. So I was listening to Escape the Fate, The Word Alive. What was the band that did Things That Rhyme with Orange?
Things that rhyme. What?
There was a hardcore band that had a song that was titled Things That Rhyme with Orange. They did a song with Smosh. It was very weird.
So it's kind of funny because you mentioned those bands, and those are not bands that were acceptable to be into when you went to shows that I went to.
Oh no, yeah. I think if we met each other when I was in high school and you were, I don't know how much older you are than me.
I don't know. How old are you?
I'm 27. You're about to be 30.
Okay,
right?
We're 3 years apart.
Yeah. Okay. So if we met in high school, I don't think we would have hung out.
Well, okay. I'll clarify this one. Probably we would have, but I think
You would show me good music.
Yeah, that's what it would be. And then it would be like, you probably would be one of those guys who would like look at me and be like, huh, whatever. And then like I'd be even more pissed about that.
Oh, yeah.
And then like if I saw you at a show, like I wouldn't, since I knew you going into the show, I wouldn't let you get hurt.
Yeah.
But if you shuffled,
oh, I would never. I was never a shuffle.
You deserve to get speared.
No, because I am too socially anxious to ever try and bring attention to myself. So I never danced at these shows.
Yeah, I was the big guy who like didn't have much stamina. So we're getting in the pit and we're having a great time. And you know, I will say this too. Like the etiquette for the pit was that your intent is not to hit somebody. But you're going to hit somebody.
Yeah,
and
it's
you're
just
going to
the
get hit.
consequence of being in the pit.
But if someone falls, you pick them up. That was like what I was raised with. That was like the guys who were in their 30s going and listening to Bane and doing circle pits. If you tripped and fell, you didn't stomp someone out. You picked them up.
No, and in my experience with the scene group, that was the same thing. I don't know if that was exactly, I don't know if that was universal, but in my experience, it was.
It was it was universal unless you were like one of those metalheads and you went to those shows that were actually wore spike bracelets and your intent was to get
blood. Oh, I remember those jerks that would do like the blind swing and stuff with the intent to hit somebody.
Cradle of Filth fans.
Oh yeah, that's accurate. Yeah, that's fair. But now I've transitioned out of that. I am actually, I guess if I had to pick like one genre that I listen to mostly, it's like electronic music. So I'm a big fan of Porter Robinson. His new album, he's been releasing some stuff that I'm really into. And then Detroit representation, I'm a big Grizz fan. I think he's bringing funk into electronic music in a great way. So yeah, that's what I'm listening to right now.
I've heard a lot about Grizz recently. A coworker of mine really likes Grizz. Personally, I have diversified what I listen to just as a musician ish, because I kind of still play music.
Yeah.
But at my core, I am still just as punk and dark and metal as possible. Like, you get me in oh boy, if you put on some loud music and dump me in my car, like, it's on it.
Maybe we'll play like a 5-second clip right here of some heavy shit that Zach would listen to.
Yes.
Editor's note.
Please edit that
we're
in.
at 40 minutes.
Okay. I will say that in addition to Enema of the State, so we're talking about video games, and
yeah, we need to circle back. Oh. Delete that at 4022.
The Tony Hawk Pro Skater series was what really solidified what music I was going to listen to for, I played that game at first when I was 12 and I'm about to be 30.
Yeah, so the first game came out in, I think, 1999. So
was it 99 or 93?
The first one came out, I think, in 99.
You're right. It had to be 99. 93.
I'll fact check that, but go ahead.
93 was only Sega, so there's no way, or Super Nintendo. So yeah, it had to be 99. PlayStation 1.
Yeah, it was a PlayStation 1 game.
Do you guys even know that PlayStation used to be just gray and had multiple discs, and you needed memory cards, and it was terrible?
Oh, dude. I had 2 memory cards for my PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2. I would just have like backup saves just in case.
Oh, dude, did you ever have to deal with you wanted to save something that you'd worked so hard to get, but you had to delete something else? And you just had to sit there and make Sophie's Choice and be like, okay.
Yeah, I had 300 hours in Final Fantasy X that...
oh, man.
Yeah, it was pretty wild, but I moved on beyond that game, so I felt comfortable deleting that save file.
For me, it was Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1.
You fucking weeb.
Big time. Oh, Dragon Ball Z, punk, metal, and thrash are basically the things that stuck around through my formative years. But Tony Hawk Pro Skater for sure introduced me to bands like Goldfinger, The Adolescents, and really I didn't even realize that this was on purpose from his standpoint, was to be able to bring these bands that we all know now as being big bands. That was just like his way of like helping them out and getting like into the world. And I was like, wait, that was not only was that on purpose and awesome, but it was also like to think of those bands as being small.
Oh, right, exactly. Yeah, you don't realize that these bands were nothing until you listen to them. And I was just listening to a podcast or a YouTube video about the history of the Tony Hawk games, and they were going over that, how Tony Hawk he wanted to introduce kids to this like music that all skaters were listening to. Yeah, I mean, the Tony Hawk 1 and 2 soundtracks are just like perfect.
And I even will go as far as to say the last Tony Hawk game that I apologize, edit that out at 42:55 as I go ahead and silence my work.
We don't do work here.
We don't do work here. That's in the podcast.
Make that our tagline.
We can make that just the episode title.
We don't do work here.
I can say for a fact that the last game I enjoyed from Tony Hawk was American Wasteland.
Oh, okay.
And I still have music like that whole soundtrack I have on my Spotify as a saved playlist.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
because it had awesome covers. There was Thrice. There was go ahead and edit. I'm gonna go pull this up right now, so please edit this out.
Okay.
At
I was
43.
gonna pull up Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 soundtrack too.
The magic of editing is fantastic. I will give you extra beer because you decided to undertake this.
That's very kind of you. So I'll let you go and then I'll talk about the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2 soundtrack.
Okay, so yeah, on the American Wasteland soundtrack, we had bands like Census Fail, Taking Back Sunday, My Chemical Romance, and they were all doing covers of like established and awesome bands. So like My Chemical Romance covered Astro Zombies.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was like, dude, this is amazing. And you have Dropkick Murphys, Thrice, The Bled, Hot Snakes, Fall Out Boy covered Gorilla Biscuits, which I thought was amazing because like that was a homage to like these old 80s punk bands that were hardcore bands that were already like, this is what these guys grew up on.
Yeah.
So it helps like establish that furthering of that. I mean, we even have like Rise Against did Fix Me.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It was just great. And
let's not forget also Green Day's Holiday was in that video.
Oh, that's right.
You win the first vert competition, I think, and they play Holiday. And I just remember being a little kid in I'm aging myself. in my basement and just being like, I had already heard the song, but hearing it in a video game, I was like, this is the real fucking deal here.
And I think the time, so I can appreciate graphics, I can appreciate dialogue, gameplay mechanics, all of that. What really sells me on a great game is the score, because that can set the mood for the game or destroy it. Like, I'm gonna get a lot of heat for this. Skyrim is a great game, but the soundtrack, I literally turn the volume down and play my own music.
Wow, that is a hot take, and we're going to lose every viewer right now. But I respect the opinion.
You know what it is? I don't want to be exploring... I don't like exploring a desolate wasteland with desolate soundtrack.
Okay. All right, so let me pose this. What is your favorite video game original soundtrack? We'll get back to licensed music, but what's your favorite video game soundtrack?
My favorite video game...
I can throw mine out real quick while you're thinking.
Yeah, go for it.
There's a video game on the PlayStation 3 and 4. It's called Journey. Mm-hmm. It is a beautiful soundtrack, and I highly recommend everyone listen to it. It's on Spotify.
You know what? I'll have to say that if it's original score, and this is regardless of game, right?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the game could be trash, but if you like the soundtrack.
Okay, I'm going to say... it's going to be the most... I mean, this podcast is for nerds, so this...
Of course, the
soundtrack for Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3.
Oh, my God.
That's the original soundtrack, and it's like... It's pulsing, it's jumping, like, it has like those bass lines. It's... And I'm going to say this too, which is also very unpopular Dragon Ball Z opinion.
Okay.
I don't like the sub. Or the music for the sub.
I don't know that anyone... I think maybe our generation. I don't think anyone in our generation likes the sub.
Oh, there's people who say it. Like, they do back it.
Well, I know they're sub purists, but I feel like everyone in our generation, we found out about Dragon Ball because of Cartoon Network, right?
Right.
With the dub.
So, like, for me, those epic moments of, like, Goku going Super Saiyan 3, watching it in the sub, I'm like,
Is he angrier? I haven't listened to the sub.
Well... I'll play it for you.
Okay, we'll do this offline. Maybe we'll add it in here.
Yeah, and then go against Sean Schimmel's version. I'm pretty sure I'm butchering his last name. That's fine. But yeah, that's mine because that's one I've actually actively looked up aside from playing the game. So I haven't played the game in years.
Oh, okay.
And then I've heard a riff in my head. And how have you had that happen when you hear a riff in your head or a drum beat and you freak out because you can't find that song?
Drives me insane. Drives me insane.
That's my one beef actually with electronic music.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. You can't. It's all robots having an orgy. There's no.
That's Horse the Band, my friend.
Oh, I love Horse the Band.
That's robots having an orgy.
Let's just divert this podcast and talk about Horse the Band.
Let's talk about Horse the Band fighting with a band of horses. Let's do that.
Oh, I would pick Horse the Band over Band of Horses any day. Their bass player is insane.
I would too. I'm just saying I laugh about the fact that they got mad.
Oh, did they?
They were like, yeah, don't support this band. We can't have the name first.
Horse the Band said this?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And they were just like,
there's beef.
Yeah. And
in the indie and what are they? I guess Horse the Band is like punk, I guess.
Horse the Band, I would say, is punk electronica.
Yeah.
Similar to how like Reggie and the Full Effect doesn't really have a genre. It just kind of like does what it's going to do. Yeah. They're going to do what they're going to do. And that, my friends, is why this podcast is for nerds, because we drift off.
Yeah, we need to get back to video game licensed music. So let me go over the Tony Hawk Pro Skater soundtrack. Now, I think a lot of people like THPS 1, the soundtrack, but I think 2 was like the defining soundtrack for the game series. So we had... I'm not a huge fan of this one, but Blood Brothers by Papa Roach. I mean, they're a big band. I'm not a Papa Roach fan, but...
You know what? I will say that Wanna Be Loved is for some reason, that song hits harder than I think it needs to, but it's great.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe it's the music video.
The second one is Bring the Noise with Anthrax and Public Enemy, which is a legendary song. I mean, it's like... It reminds me of the Aerosmith Run DMC collab, very similar, but like my generation. And I remember seeing Anthrax live 3 or 4 years ago, and they played that, and it was awesome. Guerrilla Radio by Rage Against the Machine.
Always a good one.
Huge. That song is amazing. Really psyched that they're back together. My favorite in the whole soundtrack, this might be controversial, I don't know. Because it's not Power Man 5000. It's You by Bad Religion. That was how I got into Bad Religion. They're awesome, and that You song is amazing.
Can't say that's controversial, though.
Yeah, I guess it's a popular one, but I assume most people like the Goldfinger, the Power Man 5000 song.
Well, I think that even if that's accurate, what's long-standing is Bad Religion itself.
Yeah, I mean, they're still doing music.
Yeah, and that's a band that I always find myself coming back to every couple months, where I'm like, man, I haven't listened to 21st Century Digital Boy in a while.
Yeah.
And I do it, and all of a sudden I'm just like, Bad Religion, everything for a month.
Oh, yeah, exactly, yeah. You just deep dive. They've got a great, I think the song is called The Kids Are Alt-Right. It's great. Which is just like a great play. It's just like this song keeps changing, because The Who did The Kids Are Alright.
Right.
And then The Offspring did The Kids Aren't Alright. And now we got
continuing the chain.
Yeah. Keep that going. And then the other big one would be the When Worlds Collide by Power Man 5000, which is just insane. That's a great song.
I think the one song that if you had to pick one song that you credit Tony Hawk Pro Skater Games with introducing you to, what would it be? Like the most... Like you mentioned 5 great songs.
Yeah.
What's one that sticks out as definitively saying for you, this came because of Tony Hawk Pro Skater?
Like what made the band, like this song being in this video game launched the band into...
No. Like for you personally, when you hear this song or hear reference to it makes
like
you go,
what defines...
Quintessentially Tony Hawk Pro Skater, and no other like influence on you but that game.
I think it's the Goldfinger song, probably.
Okay.
It's, I just remember, I have like fond memories of just like skating. I think it was in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1, actually. And I fondly remember skating the school with that song going on.
Nice.
What about yourself?
It's always Amoeba. by the Adolescents.
Which, okay.
That's the song I hear. I think that was Pro Skater 3.
I'll confirm while you talk about how much you love this.
And that song, every time I hear it, is like, I want to go skate. And it is
Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3.
Yeah, it's always, I want to go skate. I want to go skate right now.
Actually, I'm going to change my answer and join you in the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 era, because I forgot, and I just saw them live 2 years ago, and I only know them because of Tony Hawk Pro Skater. It's CKY.
Oh,
the 96
man.
Quite Better Beings, which is also I think the Viva La Bam theme song.
Yeah.
Because Bam's brother's the drummer for that band. That song, I just remember I would have that song on repeat, because I think there was a point where you could pick the radio, and I would just have that song repeat the whole time I was playing the game.
Oh yeah, you can get into it, and you could take out songs to only have the ones looping that you wanted.
Yeah.
I think that's another great thing that games did when it came to music, licensed or otherwise, where you could pick your playlist. You didn't have to try and fight between, setting the mood between a song you didn't want, especially with open world sandboxes. Actually, before we go to open world, so let's stay in the sports. Let's stay in the sports area.
Yeah, they've got really good soundtracks.
SSX Tricky allowed you.
Great.
Yeah, allowed you to also tab in and tab out of what you wanted to listen to.
Yeah,
and that was just a really fun game, because it was like, I don't know, did you grow up with the ability to snowboard at all?
Yeah, so we're in Michigan, so we had access to a few small mountains, nothing crazy. I did a little bit, but I was never doing backflips or anything,
right?
Or riding rails or anything like that. But man, can we get a fucking snowboarding video game back in that? I'm trying to remember. I guess SSX was the last one I played.
There is a new version on Xbox.
Oh,
it's
really?
XSX Domination or Downhill or something like that.
Okay.
I played it. It's it's actually a pretty fun game.
Yeah.
It wasn't tricky. I get it. It's not gonna be tricky. It's been 10 years.
Right, yeah.
But the things I loved about Tricky weren't there.
Yeah.
And it didn't make it a bad game. I still played through half of it.
Yeah.
But it didn't hold my attention enough either.
Right, okay.
And, being someone who came from not Michigan,
yes,
with the ability to surf and snowboard in the same day, which I didn't do because I didn't have money to do that.
Sure.
It was cool to be able to be able to skate and also be able to snowboard.
Yeah.
And everything in between. Did you ever play any BMX games?
Yeah, so I did I think it came out around the same era as when Tony Hawk was hot, was the Dave Mara games. Rest in peace, Dave Mara.
Oh, yeah.
I definitely played one of those. I don't know if they did multiple, but I remember vividly playing one of the games. And BMX just wasn't really my thing. I was a skateboarding kid growing up. I did a lot of skateboarding. I think I'm kind of slowly getting back into it. So, did you play any of the BMX games?
I didn't. I only played the BMX parts that were required on American Wasteland.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot they had kind of added that in.
Yeah, and it was a very small segment where hey, you can go back to being on a BMX bike.
Yeah.
But then the rest of your missions were revolved around you having a skateboard.
Right.
So it almost didn't matter. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, they did that with the I don't know if you played Tony Hawk Underground. It came out. I think it was the one before. Yeah, they added the driving mechanic with the cars, and it was just it was awful. I think they did a much better job.
It was skitching. Holding onto the back of the car.
They had that, and they also had parts where you literally drove a vehicle.
Oh, I do not remember that.
It was terrible. It was totally forgettable. I think they did a much better job with the BMX.
Maybe I blocked it out.
Yeah, that could be. That is very much possible.
Yeah, Thug 1 and Thug 2 were also amazing games, storyline-wise.
Yeah, I think of all the Tony Hawk games, I think Tony Hawk Underground 1 is my favorite. Just because I think I think it came out around Thug 2 was the Lords of Dogtown movie. I don't know if you ever watched that.
Yeah.
So they came out around the same time, I think. But I think Tony Hawk Underground, I must have been replaying it around the time I watched the Lords of Dogtown movie. And just the story of like coming from nothing and like building your way up, and then your buddy Eric is just like such an asshole. He's like completely sabotaging your ability.
Oh, for those of us who played that game and remembered when, because Eric was like, we started off, we got into skating because of Eric. We joined him.
Yeah,
and then he was like, hey, you can ride my coattails, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then we pulled off a sick twist. No.
Yeah, I forget. There is like a special move you do. Yeah, it's the
a big twist over the helicopter, wasn't it?
Yeah, across the hotels, and he like steals that footage.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the game is you trying to get that footage back.
Wasn't it? Okay. How many times did you try to do that? Because that took me...
tons. My greatest video game accomplishment is I beat that entire game on sick difficulty.
Wow.
Yeah, that is something I will never... And I'm actually, it's funny, right now, I just got the emulator in my PC and I've been replaying it. Because I love that game so much and the story's great. Yeah, but I remember... Because we were much younger when we were playing that game. I remember it probably took me 30 minutes to get that trick over the helicopter. And I'm sure they gave me some leeway. Like, I wasn't even close to the other side of the... Like, as long as you cleared the helicopter, you're good.
I think that, I was going to say, that's what... I remember one time, my buddy and I were really competitive over that game. But we would, like, take turns going back and forth between save files. So we would, like, kind of compete, even though it was obviously we're doing it in parallel. And I remember one time, I got the big twist, but I was too far away from the helicopter, so I fell and died.
Oh, no.
And then, like, one time, he was like, oh, you're not going to get it. And I got it, but the blade hit me. But the game still gave it to me.
Oh, really?
He was like, what is happening right now?
You just have a giant gash in your skateboarder's body.
So for those of you who know that game, don't be like Eric.
Yeah, don't be an Eric. Nobody likes an Eric. So Tony Hawk had a great soundtrack. What other games had great soundtracks for you? Like licensed.
If we're going to license music, and that gets tricky now, especially because of how games are having artists actually contribute to their music, and they're actually like making it licensed.
Yeah, right.
I think I'm gonna go with the one I enjoyed most recently as far as licensed music goes. That would have to be Saints Row 3.
Okay.
Because the different music you could play during the different radio stations, and I'm sure GTA did this also, but I played more Saints Row than I have GTA.
Yeah.
And I think it's also just because, like, once those two split and one became more goofy and nonsensical, another one became, like, more real life.
Yeah. That is the big divide between those games.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed those soundtrack, and also it was the Adult Swim station from Saints Row 3. And it was more so because the announcer on the radio station in between the cuts of songs, it was always just some nonsense. It was just this one guy, but he acted like, he was talking to a bunch of different people. And it was just nonsense.
Yeah.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, so Deftones were on that game, which great band.
Absolutely.
Black Keys, Mike Snow. What else do we have? Let me find the Adult Swim soundtrack while...
The Adult Swim soundtrack is actually how I found out about Danger Doom. I think that's what got it for me, because I'm a huge fan of, like, when Toonami did their Black Hole Mega Mix, and DJ Clark Nova, who created Toonami, if I'm correct, I think I am, I hope I am, edit this out if I'm not correct, he actually did a lot of the mixing for some of the earlier albums that people for some reason didn't like, because he mixed in some of like the voices from the cartoons into the mixes.
Yeah.
And some people who were like purists about electronic were like, well, it shouldn't have words or voices or whatever. I thought it was cool to hear like Lupin the Third and Jigen talk in the middle of like the music, or have Gohan power up and then go into some beat mix. I thought that was awesome, because it was just like the Toonami, the Adult Swim bumpers.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that music is like so definitive. Like for my childhood, that is so definitive.
That's when I felt like I was actually like, man, I'm 13. I can watch Adult Swim now. And it's like,
right. Yeah,
they said a curse word in anime. Oh, like,
yeah. So we had on the Adult Swim radio station, we had Black Mountain, Cerebral Ballsy, 2 L's, Cheeseburger, Danger Doom, Death Clock, huge Death Clock fan.
Yep.
Odd Future. Wow, that seems like I guess that was like when they were hot, was when that game came out.
Yeah, I mean, in Odd Future, the song that I heard in that game was actually different than anything I'd heard from them before.
Yeah.
So I didn't actually know that they were like on the game, honestly. I had to look up and see who this was when I heard it.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't really listen to a lot of like Odd Future, honestly.
Yeah. Odd Future is a great group. Aqua Teen Hunger Force, which is great.
My name is.
So we also had, I actually don't know this Tim and Eric song. It's a Sports Bar remix.
Oh, it's just them saying sports, and it's just like do 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 sports, and that's really all great. It is. I actually turned that song off.
And then Waves. Yeah, it's a pretty solid soundtrack. I dig that a lot.
What would you say if you had to pick one artist, one type of game, and one storyline? What would be your ideal mix?
That's interesting. One artist is going to be tough. I think I have to go with like Tony Hawk. Like the open world Tony Hawk games are probably what I'm going to pick, and then artist, it's got to be like a Dropkick Murphys or some kind of like punk band. I think maybe The Offspring. Would be, yeah.
And what? Okay, yeah, you actually answered all the questions. I'm gonna change up a little bit. I'm gonna go with open world, similar to Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
But did have a great soundtrack. But I would add maybe. What band would I put with open? What band would I put with this?
Opeth.
That'd be Ganon's theme just coming out to Opeth.
Yeah, right.
You know what? I think I would probably go with, everything I do. I was just punk and hardcore.
Yeah.
Like open world. And you know what? We forgot a game. We forgot a game that literally has everything to do with music.
I was gonna bring it up, but we were transitioning. So yeah, the like Guitar Hero Rock Band series, is that what you're getting into?
No.
Oh.
One that actually features a lot of like legendary rock stars.
Oh, it's the I know exactly what it is.
Oh man, I see the recognition in your face.
Yeah, the Jack Black game.
Yeah. Brutal Legend.
Yeah, great game.
Great soundtrack. Really funny premise, honestly. Like
yeah, I love those guys. I forget the developer name, but they do.
Isn't it Unreal Engine? Or it was Unreal?
That's the engine they used. I don't remember the company that actually made it.
I'm not. Yeah, I forgot. But that was one I was actually like really stoked to see come back if they ever did one.
Yeah, I think they could. It's so it's Double Fine. They did the Psychonauts series, and they're working on the second one right now. I feel like they've been working on it for like 6 years. So
the second. What?
Psychonauts game.
Oh, right.
So I'm hoping maybe they can pursue Jack Black and do a Brutal Legend too.
Because that would basically... they have to do it now, because the people who starred in it, like Lemmy's not here anymore, rest in peace.
Yeah, we lost him, unfortunately.
They'd have to do it now.
Yeah, I remember that soundtrack is awesome. 3 Inches of Blood's on that.
As you can see, are at the very tippy top of the iceberg of what we can continue to talk about. But unfortunately, we're getting to the end of the podcast, and we actually have a special reservation for the end of this podcast because we both... Is foodie appropriate? We both like good food.
Food? Yeah, that's a nerdy thing.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
We like food. We like beer. We like coffee. We like tequila. I like tequila. Calvin likes tequila when I give it to him. So we're going to do a shout out for some of our favorite places, and these could be local places we've been to before. My shout out today, Matty J's Bakery in Saline. I've been going there for 2 years. I love the sandwiches there. I love the staff. I love the baked goods. It's so good. I'm staring at some right now.
Yeah, those look delicious, and I'm surprised we have not eaten them on mic.
Well, yeah, I just didn't know how that would sound.
We're professionals. We would never do that.
We will. We've been drinking beer this whole time.
Yeah.
We were drinking, this is a Tilted Earth Winter IPA by Arbor Brewing Company.
It's very good.
as Calvin finishes his can. Who's your local, like, what's your local, or not even local, what's your restaurant you want to give a shout out to?
It's actually not a restaurant.
Hey.
It's a local business, though.
Hey.
But it fits in with the nerdy vibe of this podcast. It is the Vault of Midnight store in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It's so comic book shops. They're kind of a dime a dozen, I think, but this one has really set itself apart. They've got a very unique vibe to them. The staff are incredibly knowledgeable in the music that they play in the store. I don't think I've ever known the name of like one of the bands that have been playing, which I think is great. It exposes me to new music. But they don't do just comics. They do board games, which I'm really passionate about. That's one of my nerdy things is board games. And they do graphic novels. They do D&D. They do models and stuff like that. So definitely worth checking out. I'm sure anyone that's listening to this has been there or has heard of it. But they have locations in a lot of places in Michigan. I think they're in Detroit and Plymouth as well as in Ann Arbor. So definitely check that out.
All right. Well, speaking of that, we are going to go ahead and roll for initiative and catch you all next time on This Podcast is for Nerds. 108.44. Do I hit stop or does it erase everything?
Yeah, just